Theon Greyjoy was born to the sea and salt of the Iron Islands, a place where the wind howls and the waves crash endlessly against jagged rocks. The ocean was in his blood, and the call of the salt water shaped his earliest memories. He was the son of Lord Balon Greyjoy, heir to a legacy of raiding, ironborn pride, and the unyielding traditions of his people. Theon's childhood was steeped in tales of conquest and the fierce independence of his ancestors, but fate intervened. After his father's failed rebellion, Theon was taken as a hostage by King Robert and sent to Winterfell, a world away from the roaring sea and the home he knew. This act split his life in two, leaving him stranded between the world of his birth and the world of his captors. He became a prince without a kingdom, an heir held far from home, always longing for the crashing waves and the salt air of the Iron Islands. Raised by the Starks, his family's enemies, Theon was surrounded by honor and duty, yet haunted by memories of his true home. Theon grew up caught between two worlds, the wild, storm-lashed Iron Islands, where strength and cunning were prized above all, and the cold, honorable North, where loyalty and justice were the highest virtues. He was shaped by this duality, never fully belonging to either place, always feeling like an outsider looking in. The memory of Pike, with its dark towers and stormy shores, haunted him, even as he learned the ways of Winterfell, training alongside the Stark children and adapting to the cold northern customs. He carried the weight of two legacies, the fierce independence and ambition of the Ironborn, and the quiet honor and steadfast loyalty of the Starks, who treated him as one of their own, yet never let him forget he was not truly family. This internal conflict would define his every choice, pulling him in opposite directions, forcing him to question where his true loyalties lay. Theon was a boy torn from his roots, forced to grow in foreign soil, always searching for a sense of belonging. He was a prince of two worlds, and the struggle to be loyal to both would threaten to tear him apart, testing his heart and his identity at every turn. His journey began with this fracture, a wound that would shape all his triumphs and tragedies, and ultimately define the man he would become. For 9 years, Winterfell was Theon's world, a place of warmth and order so different from Pike. Lord Eddard Stark treated him with reserved kindness, raising him alongside his own children. Theon formed a close bond with Robb Stark, sharing laughter and rivalry, but always felt the invisible wall of being a hostage. He masked his insecurity with arrogance and charm, desperate to prove his worth. Theon was popular, skilled and handsome, but always an outsider, never truly a Stark, never truly at home. His relationship with Jon Snow was strained, a reflection of his own sense of not belonging. He ran with the wolves, but his blood was of the kraken. This uneasy peace at Winterfell was only a pause before his true identity would demand a reckoning. Theon's restlessness grew, fueled by the knowledge that he was a prince with no true place. War swept Westeros, tearing families and allegiances apart as rival kings rose to claim the Iron Throne. The land was gripped by chaos, and every house was forced to choose a side. In the midst of this turmoil, Theon stood by Robb Stark, fighting as a brother in all but blood. Their bond was forged in the fires of war, and Theon was Robb's trusted companion. Robb, now king in the north, placed his faith in Theon and sent him to the Iron Islands to seek an alliance with his father, Balon Greyjoy, hoping to unite their forces against their enemies. Theon returned home after years away, torn between loyalty to Robb and the desperate desire for his father's approval. The sea air was thick with memories and uncertainty. He dreamed of uniting his two worlds, believing he could bridge the gap between the Starks and the Greyjoys. But Balon saw only a stranger, mocking Theon's northern ways and questioning his loyalty. Balon had his own ambitions to attack the north, not aid it. He saw opportunity in the chaos, and his heart was set on conquest, not alliance. Theon faced an impossible choice: betray Robb, the brother who raised him, or remain an outcast to his own blood, forever caught between two worlds. The journey home became a test of identity, forcing Theon to confront who he truly was and which world he would ultimately betray. Every step weighed heavy with doubt. The cold welcome at Pike shattered his hopes of reconciliation, leaving him isolated and uncertain of his place in either family. Theon's two worlds collided, and he was forced to decide which one to shatter, knowing that either choice would haunt him forever. The cost of belonging would be devastating, leaving Theon to wonder if he would ever truly belong anywhere at all. Desperate for his father's approval, Theon betrayed Robb and chose the kraken over the wolf. Given a minor command, he sought to prove himself by capturing Winterfell, the heart of the north. His plan was bold: lure out the garrison, then seize the castle with a small force. For a moment Theon felt triumphant, declaring himself Prince of Winterfell. But the victory was hollow. The people saw him as a traitor, not a conqueror. His sister Asha dismissed his prize as worthless, and his men's loyalty wavered. Theon was trapped, neither respected by the Ironborn nor accepted by the North. His reign was built on fear and desperation, not strength. The home he had taken became a prison. Theon's triumph turned to ash, leaving only the bitter taste of betrayal. He was a prince with no loyal subjects, haunted by the consequences of his choice. Theon's grip on Winterfell crumbled when Bran and Rickon Stark escaped, threatening his fragile authority. In panic, he followed the advice of the sinister Reek, murdering 2 innocent boys and passing them off as the Stark heirs. This act of cruelty branded him as Theon Kinslayer, despised by the North and even his own men. Guilt haunted him, turning him into a ghost within the castle he once called home. As northern forces closed in, Theon sought help from the Boltons, unaware of their true intentions. Ramsay Snow, the bastard of Bolton, betrayed him, sacking Winterfell and capturing Theon. The flames consuming Winterfell mirrored the ruin of Theon's soul. His reign ended in blood and fire, leaving him broken and alone. Theon's desperate bid for respect had led only to infamy and ruin. The Prince of Two Worlds was now a prisoner of his own choices. Captured by Ramsay Snow, Theon Greyjoy was dragged to the Dreadfort, where his world descended into a nightmare of pain and terror. Once a proud prince, he was now nothing more than a captive, stripped of hope and dignity. Ramsay's cruelty was relentless. Flaying, starvation, and psychological torment became Theon's daily reality. Every moment was a test of endurance, designed to break him in body and mind, to erase every trace of the man he once was. Theon's body was battered and broken, his spirit shattered beyond recognition. Even his very name was stripped away, leaving him lost and unmoored. Ramsay forced him to answer to Reek, punishing any memory or whisper of his former self. The name became a chain, binding him to his tormentor's will. The proud prince was reduced to a terrified, submissive creature, desperate to avoid pain and eager to please his captor, no matter the cost. Theon's memories faded, replaced by a constant gnawing fear and a need to obey. His mind became a prison, just as real as the stone walls around him. He was paraded as a trophy, humiliated and degraded at every turn, his suffering displayed for the amusement of others. The transformation was total. Theon Greyjoy was gone, replaced by Reek, Ramsay's broken pet, stripped of all pride and humanity. His past became a distant, painful dream. A life he could barely remember, haunted by the ghost of who he used to be. The Ironborn prince was lost, his legacy reduced to a name that rhymed with weak, a cruel reminder of all he had lost. Ramsay's sadism forged a new identity, one built on terror, submission, and the constant threat of pain. Theon's will was not just bent, but utterly destroyed. Theon's will was crushed, his sense of self obliterated, leaving only a shell of a man behind. He was no longer Theon Greyjoy, only Reek, a shadow of the man he once was, forever marked by Ramsay's cruelty. The transformation from Theon to Reek was absolute, physically and mentally. Once proud and handsome, Theon became a withered, fearful shell, haunted by terror of Ramsay. Every action was governed by fear. Defiance was unthinkable. Ramsay paraded him as a symbol of his power, forcing him to serve and endure constant humiliation. The name Theon became forbidden, a source of pain and punishment. To survive, he forced himself to forget who he was, whispering, "My name is Reek." Even memories of the Starks and his past life brought only agony. Living as Reek meant perpetual humiliation and loss. Theon's identity was buried deep, replaced by a desperate need to please his tormentor. Forgetting was his only escape from guilt and grief. The Prince of Two Worlds was now a nameless, broken servant. Lost in his identity as Reek, Theon returned to Winterfell, now a place of suffering. Serving Ramsay and his false bride, he believed escape was impossible, until a moment in the Godswood changed everything. Standing before the Heart Tree, Theon heard a whisper, his own name. The memory of who he was flickered to life, bringing pain but also a spark of courage. When Northern Spearwives plotted to rescue Jane Poole, Theon hesitated, but the memory of his name pushed him to act. In a desperate moment, he helped Janie escape, leaping from the battlements into the snow. It was a small act of bravery, but it marked the return of Theon's true self. The whisper in the Godswood became the first step toward reclaiming his identity. Theon's journey back from darkness had begun.
Unlimited royalty-free music for videos and media projects.
Surviving the escape, Theon was captured by Stannis Baratheon's men and brought to his camp. The Northern Lords demanded his execution for his crimes, seeing only Theon Kinslayer. Reunited with his sister Asha, Theon confessed the truth. He had not killed Bran and Rickon, but two innocent boys. This confession was a painful step toward redemption. Facing death, Asha pleaded that he be allowed to die as Theon Greyjoy, not as Reek. Theon's fear of Ramsay finally faded, replaced by quiet resolve. He reclaimed his name, his identity, and his dignity in the face of death. The journey from prince to prisoner, from Reek to Theon, was complete. He had endured unimaginable suffering, but found the courage to be himself at the end. Theon's story was one of loss, pain, and ultimately the power of remembering who you are.